On this True Law Stories, we're going to talk AI. We're going to talk copyright law. We're going to talk trademarks. We're going to talk crazy patents, all with Thomas Stanton. Thomas, say hi.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
And besides that, we're going to talk about can you copyright AI content, copyright and NFT laws, about a man walking in the door of the Stanton Law Firm and 3 years later having a $60 million company. All this on True Law Stories. But don't forget, one of the best ways to grow your business, to sell your patent, to sell your idea, and grow a law firm is through client stories. You can learn exactly how to do it the right way with video case stories with a new book, Video Testimonials That Land the Big Fish. You can get that at testimonialbook.com, where you'll learn step by step how to increase your sales, marketing, and operations using client stories. All right, let's get started. Intellectual property is always interesting because it's one of those things that's people just don't understand what's trademark, what's copyright, what you can trademark, what you can copyright. And we're going to talk about how you've helped grow $60 million firms or $60 million software companies. But I want to get a little bit your background because it's interesting. You didn't start as an attorney, did you?
No, I didn't. I actually started as a computer engineer and had a whole career prior to going to law school. Started software development and a support company out of undergrad. Ran that for about 7 years, sold it, and then worked for the company I sold it to as their director of sales and marketing for about 3 years. Started to get the itch to do something else, got bored, if you will, and law had always percolated in the back of my head. And at the time, I was 35, no kids, no wife, and thought if there's ever a better time, now's the time. Had a couple bucks in the bank and was like, all right, I can go full time, and why not? So
that seems like it's the perfect background for starting a law firm because you have sales and marketing and a computer engineering degree. It is like for starting an IP law firm.
Yeah, it is. I thought I had the skill set, the providing something a little different to the law firm world as well, coming out of obviously a different background, not coming from law school to big law, then starting my own or something like that, which is more of a traditional route. Come up with probably a little more creative thinking and hopefully, and I think we're doing it, but bringing a more business oriented mindset to the law firm world.
Yeah, I think that especially in IP law, that definitely is important to come up with the mindset of, is this going to work as a business, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then having an engineering background just to think through IP properly, because it's a different type of law, isn't it, than your other types of law?
It definitely has some nuances to it. I don't want to say that other laws don't, because they do. I think the biggest thing on under IP, you have four buckets. You've got patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. Patents make it the most niche, is the most niche of the four, mainly because to be a patent attorney, you not only have to go to law school and get and pass the state bar and be an attorney, you also have to be able to be qualified to sit for the patent bar. And the patent bar requires you to be an engineer or science undergrad with certain level of credentials or bachelor's in a certain area. And then you can sit and take the patent bar, which is equally as hard or harder than the state bar. But the combination of the two is what creates more of probably the biggest of the niche within IP law.
Gotcha. And so tell me a little bit about the firm and the types of people that you work with.
So we're headquartered in Tampa, Florida. I went to USF in Tampa for undergrad and then Stetson for law school. So stayed local. Now I have a family, not going anywhere, even though it's really hot right now in the summer. But
yeah, it's like I need to move right now.
Yeah, if I can do the snowbird thing, that's definitely the way to do it. But so we've got four full-time attorneys, two of counsel attorneys. We've got about three paralegals, a controller, an office admin, a marketing person. So about 10 to 12 total people right now. For Tampa, though, we're one of the bigger IP firms. There's not a lot of IP specific firms. And we also branch a little bit into some corporate work, primarily around tech companies and things like that. And we do half our work's litigation as well. So that's our makeup of a firm. And our clients, about 60 to 65% are probably in the technology space, high tech, software, hardware. And then we've got a decent amount of clients in medical device. And then we have your general bucket of clients from all over.
Gotcha. And I bet you get a lot. I get this a lot because being in marketing and helping grow businesses, A lot of people come to me with their ideas, and sometimes, and people have like crazy ideas, and they think that just having the idea is going to make it happen. Does that happen to you a lot?
All the time. It happens in Uber rides. It happens at the airport. It just, yeah. As soon as you tell them you do patent work, a lot of the wheels start spinning. Yeah, we get that a lot. We get a lot of consults around that too. And probably the thing I say ad nauseum is that there is not really a mechanism to protect an idea.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be confusing because there's the idea, which pretty much everything has to originate from an idea typically. Very few things happen because somebody mindlessly came up with it. Most of the time you have some sort of an idea of what something is missing or what society needs or how to fix a problem, and then you work towards a solution. But our society and most of the world is this way, does not give credit to the idea. It's the credits to the implementer of the idea. So the person who does the heavy lifting to put the idea into fruition.
Gotcha. And you had one guy you were telling me about before that just came in off the street and walked away, and you weren't sure if you're ever going to see him again?
Yeah, so sometimes you get surprised, and it's cool to see some of these needle in the haystack things happen. We get a range of consults and calls, people from that want to sue the government for doing stuff to them, or to people being spied on, and not saying that they might not have something there, but most of the time what they're presenting to us is some sort of a hunch. My laptop was closed when I came home, therefore someone broke in and stole. We're not getting a lot of concrete evidence. I'm not saying things don't happen, but we get a lot of those things. So when people come in unannounced or have grandiose ideas, we try to give them the respect that they deserve. But at the same time, there's in the back of your mind, you're okay, here we go again kind of thing. So had one case where a gentleman walked into the office unannounced without appointment, just came in. You don't typically do that at a law firm, especially our kind of law firm. So that in and of itself is unique. And when it does happen, it's generally someone soliciting you for something, right? So he comes in, he says he wants to start a business. He has an idea. And I said, all right, where are you at the idea stage, or have you put anything down? And he really had nothing. So I said, here's what you have to do, right? You really need to flush out your idea on how is it going to work? What's your marketing plan? Do you have a business plan in place? Things like that. So went through some fairly basic startup questions around it. And he's, no, I don't have these. So I said, all right, you kind of really need those before we can really do much and help you. He's like, okay. So he leaves. So I figure never see this guy again, right? Never hear from him. It's probably about 3 weeks later, and he comes back and he goes, all right, here's what I got. Is this good? And I was like, okay. You actually, not only did you take to heart what I said, but you actually implemented it, and you, in many respects, went above and beyond that. So I said, all right, we have enough now to get started. So we said, all right, here's what it's going to cost to get a company formed, get some documentation in place, get trademarks going, get things like that. He wrote a check and said, let's go. So we started doing it. Fast forward about 6 months, he's chugging along. We're lots of meetings, lots of things going on, and he's about ready, making some traction, got development fully underway, things like that. I introduced him to some other contacts that we have. He gets into an incubator program. Next thing you know, one of the people from the incubator is now partners with him. So it's moving along. Fast forward 3 years, and they're in the process of raising, I think, $15 or so million on a Series A at a 45 or 50 million valuation. And they're in interesting talks for potential acquirers. And it's very cool to see that happen.
That's amazing. That's really cool. That's a great story. And that's fun because that's a tough thing to do. I think a lot of people think that happens more often than it does.
Correct. Yeah. The come in and say, I want to make $1 billion with my idea, that's common. But this goes back and ties back to the idea where people sometimes get pissed off that we don't have a way of protecting ideas. And you don't have to love society and the government for everything, but this is probably one thing they get right, which is if there was a mechanism to protect ideas, it would just stifle the economy and innovation, because every time someone came up with something and implemented it, someone would run out and be like, that's my idea. What have you done with it? Nothing, but it's my idea. So we really focus on trying not to protect the concept or the idea and reward the person who's doing something to implement it to, in essence, benefit society.
Yeah, that's it. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
And now we've got AI and artificial intelligence coming up with ideas.
Yeah.
What are you seeing out there? What kind of things are happening as this is moving forward in trademark? Because it's a crazy world right now when it comes to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I enjoy talking about it. One, because AI is new in terms of its consumability, but it's not new from a tech perspective. It's not
Yeah.
new from, we were doing high-end AI back in 2000, 2002, when I was 1, 2, 3, when I was in undergrad. So a lot of the concepts and technology around it isn't necessarily new, but the ability for it to be bite-sized, fed into millions of people is new. So before, you would run something like a chat GPT and it might take an hour or a day to run, right? And now it's running in seconds.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, you might have had a smaller subset of data, so you would have gotten a little different results than now, where it's being able to access trillions and trillions of data points. So that part is new. The interesting thing of the intersection with law is that there really is no law around it. So when I talk about it and when I geek out on it myself, I talk about it in terms of, okay, how do you take this AI, which really isn't contemplated at all? Quite frankly, internet isn't even contemplated in most of our laws, let alone AI, crypto, blockchain, pick your new form of technology. So how do you cram that into one of those four buckets I mentioned earlier, which is patent, trademark, copyright, or trade secret? And how do you cram it into one of those buckets, and what does it mean? And so it becomes really interesting. A lot of AI generated stuff is not really protectable. The creation of the AI software can be and is but once you create the engine that then does creating, that second level of creation that's done by the engine really is not very protectable. Where it actually becomes, the intersection actually works in reverse. And what I mean by that is, if you go to chat GPT, for example, and you ask it to create something, most likely it's not protectable, whatever it creates. But what is possible is that what it created is in violation of somebody else's IP. So you run into that type of scenario, right? So if, let's say, I'll use a silly example. Let's say you're writing a blog, a 600-word blog, and you go to chat GPT and you ask it to write a blog on a certain topic. And part of what ChatGPT does is go out and finds all this data, has access to. And let's say it pulls a paragraph from, and doesn't change it much. Let's just say it just pulls a paragraph from a copyrighted work of art that's out on the internet. And then you post that blog on your website. You could be in violation of a copyright without even knowing it, and you're going to be responsible for it. You're not going to be able to really sue ChatGPT for it. That's where it becomes interesting. And that's where some of it is. I think the AI is going to continuously evolve. Saying AI is like saying the word computer, right? It's super broad right now. And I think as it evolves, and it's evolving quickly, but as it continues to evolve, you're going to see really unique subsets of AI that is going to have tremendous impacts on our life and society. How that ends up intersecting with the law, I think, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of faith that Congress or the legislative branch is going to pass coherent laws around it. I think a lot of it's going to end up in the judge's hands in court, and it's going to be probably pretty messy, quite frankly.
Yeah, especially after seeing them interview Zuckerberg about Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a micro set of the expanse of AI.
That's right.
And it's funny, I'm now using ChatGPT. I think my Alexa is stupid. Sorry, Alexa. You didn't hear that, did you?
Yeah.
And so what are you seeing come through the door? What kinds of big questions do people have because they're probably obviously calling you about this?
Yeah, so a lot of it's around, we get a lot around NFTs. Can I protect my NFT? Can I create an NFT out of something that I bought? Can I mix mash different images together to create an NFT? A lot of questions around that. Again, not a lot of great answers. Trying to put that into square peg round hole into the copyright bucket generally. So we get a lot on that. We get a lot of questions around blockchain and crypto. The AI questions, not a ton around people are more interested in the effects and legalities of AI on their business and on their how much can they use, can they not use. There's some recent stuff which are more chuckles than anything else, which are there was a case where a couple of attorneys used ChatGPT to write a brief, and it cited case law that of cases that don't exist. What was interesting about that, if you read the judge's thing, the judge basically said if they would have come clean and said, we used ChatGPT to do this and we thought it was accurate, it seemed like the judge probably would have given them a pass and not sanctioned them on it. But they weren't honest about it, and they lied about it, and they said, oh no, we checked it, it's real, right? And then once they got caught red-handed, then the judge came down on them, and they basically fined him. And then the best part about it was the judge made the attorneys write an apology to the judges that were cited in the fake cases. And I thought that was pretty funny.
That's great.
But that's where I see AI coming up more so. How does it affect? Can I use it here? What's my exposure? Things like that.
Gotcha. That's crazy. And as we're moving forward in this AI world, it seems like almost like someone would have to talk to you on a daily basis.
Yeah, it is true. Yes and no. I think yes, in terms of what AI is doing, but unfortunately, no, in terms of has the law changed, right? So I think that's where things are going to get potentially very interesting. I think with AI, it can make it harder. You can make a strong argument that without proper protections, AI, in theory, can work around IP much faster, right? So if you say, let's say a patent, if you go, all right, I need to work around this patent. How do I compete with this company and their patent by working around it and being able to develop a similar product or service or whatever it may be without infringing on it? Right now, what you do is you hire someone like us to go through and we say, all right, here's some key elements that are in these claims for this patent. And if you're not doing this or this, you're probably okay. And we give you a little opinion letter kind of thing. With AI, though, you could see a scenario where you could say, all right, I'm going to dump 500,000 patents into the AI engine, and I want it to tell me how to work around each one of these.
Wow.
And, as somebody who is creating the IP, you could argue it gives you somewhat of an unfair advantage on how to get around the protections, right? So we're not seeing that at a high scale right now, but it would not surprise me if that's coming.
Yeah, especially if someone watches this podcast and then goes does it the day after. You never know. And on a completely different note, I think this is super interesting, and I definitely would love to have you come on. Also, we've got the Garlic Marketing Show and talk about AI and marketing and the legal aspects of marketing. But I want to get just into copyright and patent. What's the craziest thing you've seen copyrighted or patent or trademarked?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think in terms of like crazy. I would say maybe interesting things, like we got a patent for a client on a pet urn.
I'm sorry, you broke up for a second. A what?
A pet urn. So you put your ashes for your pet into an urn. So we worked with a client who had a unique way of creating that. We got a patent for him on it. We got a patent which was wild on a board game, which is basically a blend of beer pong and flip cup kind of thing. And so it's like a board game that's sitting here and you throw a ping pong on it, and it's got a little deadening surface, and then it's got a little ledge and it sticks in, and then at the end it's got a cup. Or it's more like cornhole and beer pong. Some interesting things like that.
We go from AI to cornhole.
Yeah. And they're all cool in their own way.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So tell us a little bit about working with you and working with your firm. I'm sure being patent and trademark, you probably work with people all around the country, don't you?
Yeah, we work with people all over the world, quite frankly. We help our domestic clients in the U.S. be able to get protections outside the U.S., and we help our clients outside the U.S. be able to get protections inside the U.S. When we do international work, we've got a really nice collection of foreign law firms that we work with. And yeah, so we help with that. And then we help them get foreign companies get protections in the US when they need it as well. Working with us, I think we provide a little bit of a different viewpoint on it. We try to do a really good job of meshing the business viewpoint with the legal side of it. And being that I've been through that in my previous life, I think we do a good job of helping our clients understand why they're going through the process. It's not just simply, oh, someone said to get a patent, so I'm going to get a patent. What do you do with the patent? I don't know. I'm just supposed to get a patent. We really try to help educate them on understanding what to do with it, why they're getting it. It's a tool in their business toolbox, and how do you use it? What's it used for? When should you take it out? Things like that. So I think we do a good job of helping our clients with that. And ultimately, I think in many respects, we're like an insurance provider in a way. If you follow our advice and you do the right things, we're going to put you in a position where your risk vulnerability as you go through your business career is going to be minimized. I can't bring it to zero, but it's going to be a lot less than if you don't use us and go forward and try to find things online and just patch things together and maybe delay on doing some things that you should have because you don't feel it's necessary, things like that. We do a lot of litigation as well, so we see the ugly side too, and so we can use that exposure that we have there to help with our transactional side to help hopefully curtail things that could happen and give you the ability to deal with them in a more amicable way.
Yeah, no, anyone that I know state litigation attorneys and anyone that has control of the litigation has a different viewpoint. So it brings together a whole lot of, obviously you've got a lot of value there. Awesome. So we'll put a link to the Stanton Law Firm in the show notes. Besides your website, where's the best place for someone to follow you, Tom?
So you can find both the firm and myself. We're on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, probably most active on Facebook and LinkedIn. I believe my marketing director tells me to get a TikTok. I don't think I've done a lot with that yet, but we have a YouTube channel as well. And just trying to keep creating some content and keep hopefully educating and providing a resource for both your audience and the companies that are looking for some guidance on how to work their way through these legal minefields that are out there.
That's awesome. So we'll put a link to all that in the show notes. And make sure if you have any of these questions, if you want to build a $60 million software company, you should give the Stanton Law Firm a call and take their advice. But Thomas, thank you so much for being on True Law Stories.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for taking Thomas and I on your journey. This has been Iron Garlic and True Law Stories.